Content warning. This video deals with themes of sexual assault. It's a new day on Deep Space Nine, and Quark's giving Kira flowers. Not like that, apparently, as Dax wheedles out the fact Kira's getting them for her mum, this being her 60th birthday. Well, it would have been anyway if she hadn't died in a refugee camp when Kira was only 3. Kira's dad said these were her favourite, so she's honouring the day the only way she knows how. She wasn't expecting any other birthday wishes, so it comes as quite a surprise when Seagull Dukat calls and offers his. He was busy plotting the destruction of Bajor the last time we saw him, but despite this, Kira listens to him when he says he and Kira's mother were lovers. Perhaps it's because he backs up the claim by recognizing the flowers and saying they were her favourite. Whatever the reason, it's enough for Kira to do some checking. The answers don't help, and Kira's pissy to everybody around her the following morning. Most people just take it, but Odo isn't most people. His inquiries lead to an acceptance that she doesn't want to discuss the matter, so he instead suggests that maybe she could do something about whatever's bothering her instead. Sisko's a little surprised to hear that Seagull Dukat called the station, as Kira hadn't reported it. A bit of an oversight given how he was the last time he was seen, even with this being a personal matter, but the phone call isn't why Kira's here. She's here because she wants his permission to do some time fuckery. She tells him what she knows, which isn't a whole lot more than Seagull Dukat's word, but the idea has been bothering her, so she's decided the only way to fix it is by dicking around with an orb of the prophets, the orb of time to be specific. That's a problem, as Starfleet is very opposed to time fuckery, perhaps because they're so sick of how often the writers trot it out, but Kira's not asking Sisko as a member of Starfleet. She's just a Bajoran seeking help from the emissary of her gods to understand their will, which would make it culturally insensitive if he said no to asking for access on her behalf. Feels like the sort of thing she could just go to First Minister Shakar for, what with them being ex-lovers and shit, but maybe she doesn't want to make things awkward. Regardless, having the support of the emissary is clearly very effective. Kira's soon in a temple on Bajor, and about to have another meeting with her gods. Kira's in a cave. So too are a number of other people, and it looks like the prophets aren't wasting any time today, as the Kira family are included. The old Kira family, that is, as their version of Kira Nerys is a small child, with her dad leading her by the hand. Her mum, Maru, has been collecting meagre food rations, this presumably being a refugee camp, and some other lads have decided the food should be theirs. Kira's disinclined to let this happen, and, after words don't do the job, she knocks them on their asses and nicks their knife. That leads to thanks from the Kira family, and Kira providing a fake name for rather obvious reasons. Pleasantries will have to wait as a group of Cardigan lads arrive. The Bajoran at the head of them announces Terok Nor will soon be open for business, and the Cardigan troops on it require companionship. This is not a voluntary arrangement either, as he points at 3 women to be taken by force, with 2 of them being Kira and Maru. They join other women on the station as the Bajoran lad assigns them to quarters and tells them to freshen up for tomorrow. Inside the quarters is more food than Maru has seen in quite some time, so they set to it while Kira makes plans to escape and reunite her family so they can all join the resistance together. Maru's not exactly taken with the idea. That might be connected to the scar on the side of her face, one given by a Cardigan soldier for not being sufficiently submissive. Tomorrow comes and everybody's gathered for an inspection. The Bajoran guy from earlier gives a speech about how everyone here has started a new life, an argument somewhat undermined by threatening their old families if they don't comply. Seagull Dukat arrives to interrupt just as things are getting proper threatening, all the better to prove he's actually a really nice guy. Their families are being given extra food and medicine after all. He even heals Maru's scar when he sees it, instead of having her sent away for being damaged goods. The attention towards Maru continues at the party later. Seagull Dukat spots her receiving the unwanted affections of a shit-faced officer and intervenes. He apologizes for the officer's behavior and she's sent back to her quarters to recover, though the whole thing was apparently staged. Another officer with Kira is able to perfectly predict a line from Siegel Dukat before he says it. Playing the altruistic savior is something he's done before to the women who interest him, and the other officers now know Maru has been claimed by him. So claimed, in fact, that when Kira gets back to their shared quarters, she finds they're not shared anymore. Maru is being moved in with Siegel Dukat himself, and Kira's demands to see her are not well received. The resulting wrestle ends with them deciding maybe Kira isn't companion material after all, and dumping her in with the rest of the manual labourers. Kira's been on the station long enough to have workers' clothes again, several weeks at least according to the guy giving her information on Maru, as that's how long Kira's been asking about her. There was no information until now because Maru wasn't on the station, her having gone on holiday with Siegel Dukat like the collaborator she is. Kira speaking up in her defense doesn't convince the guy, but he drops it anyway. He's a resistance member and wants as much information about the other side of the gate as possible, with no questions asked. Kira doesn't get the chance to answer either way, as the Bajoran guy from earlier finds her and tells her to follow him. We end up in quarters with Maru, and she's confused by Kira's suggestion that Siegel Dukat might have hurt her. Siegel Dukat himself doesn't much care for the suggestion either, not when he's treated her so well. He's even willing to still let Maru choose Kira as a companion, despite the obvious dislike, and leaves them to talk while he goes off to work. Kira's warnings about Siegel Dukat fall on deaf ears. Maru's discovered he's not the despot they've all been told. He's even trying to convince his government they should be more lenient with the Bajorans. He tells her everything, you see, including that saving her at the party was fake. He's like that, once you get to know him. Kira's disgusted by what she's seen and heard and decides to go back to the other labourers. Not that she plans to stay there and labour with them. She's talking to the resistance guy, and it's not about giving him maps. The bomb in the earring he's providing won't set off sensors, probably, so this is the best chance they've got at taking out Siegel Dukat. He's a bit worried about her warning Maru, but Kira reassures him there's no chance of that. Collaborators deserve what they get. That doesn't mean she can't use the connection, though. She tells the guy from earlier that she's reconsidered and wants to apologize to Maru, so he ferries Kira and her earring bomb to Siegel Dukat's quarters. Kira does a good job of selling the apology, and Maru forgives her after Siegel Dukat provides his permission. He leaves the two of them to reconcile properly, but not before giving something to Maru. Kira activates the bomb as he goes into the other room to work, starting a 3-minute timer she can't cancel. That gives us just long enough to see the something Siegel Dukat gave to Maru, which turns out to be a message from her husband. They're out of the refugee centre and back home. Cardigan promises to take care of them, having been kept. The children are doing much better, and little Nerys is putting on weight as a result of the increased food. He thanks Maru for what she's doing and tells her she saved their lives, before hoping she can find some sort of peace for herself wherever she is now. Kira seeing all of this and Maru's reaction to it causes her to have a change of heart. A warning to Maru and Dukat has all three of them scarpering the quarters just before it kabooms. The three are thrown to the floor, but when Maru looks around afterwards, there are only two of them. The prophets have decided Kira's seen all she needs to, and she's back in the temple. Kira's lifelong despisal of collaborators has become another grey area. Talking it through with Cisco doesn't make things any clearer, nor does learning that her mother died in a Cardigan hospital 7 years after arriving on Terok Nor, meaning she was Siegel Dukat's mistress for all that time. Those conflicted emotions also apply to Kira's decision to save her, so we'll leave her to reconcile this new knowledge against her old feelings until the next adventure. The term comfort women used in this episode is a euphemism for people who've been forced into sexual slavery, often through misdirection or outright kidnap. Sexual slavery is, of course, its own euphemism for serial rape. If you've heard the term comfort women before, it's probably in reference to the actions of the Imperial Japanese Armed Forces during World War II. What you probably don't know is just how widespread the activity was, as neither did I until I looked into it for this video. Records are sketchy for obvious reasons, with estimates for the numbers of victims ranging from 20,000 to nearly 500,000, but we do know it was sufficiently common that accountancy classes held by the army included teaching people how to run such establishments efficiently. It's also worth mentioning that not all of the victims were women, nor were they all adults. A very serious topic indeed then, and one that was in the public consciousness during the 90s when this was written. We could probably have a chat about just how appropriate it is to make that a subject in a science fiction show, but Trek has a history of taking things in the public eye and making stories about them. Besides, we're already covering occupation, enslavement, and genocide, and we've essentially said the Cardigan military are space Nazis a few times, so this is at least on brand. If there's a complaint to be made, it's that the use of the subject is secondary, relegated to a plot point for the purpose of having Kira's mum present. We pay little attention to the topic itself, and that feels callous. That being said, a Star Trek show going into detail about institutionalized sexual violence would never have even got past the script stage, so perhaps this is an example of people doing as much as was possible under the constraints placed upon them. As we've heard before about representation, the general consensus is that something is better than nothing. So, what do we actually get? Well, Kira's mum being a subject of some conflicting feelings for her. Kira thinks true Bajorans throw back their heads and laugh defiantly at the evil Cardigans. It's what she did, after all. But she could afford to. She didn't have a family to consider. She didn't need to weigh the consequences of her actions on the well-being of others. Her mother, Maru, did. And that's the nub of it all. The question we're given is how much of Maru's choice was driven by a desire to find an easier life, and how much to protect her family. Given the situation, is it even fair to consider it a choice? That places the onus on her for the position others have put her in. And how far does that reasoning stretch? Do we give Basso, the Bajoran guy who rounded up women, a pass for his actions if he was protecting his children? After all, if he hadn't performed the task, someone else would have. Does the presence of a nice clean suit change things, or is that just a gilded cage? Where's the line between survivor and collaborator? All we learn from this is that Kira's continued existence was likely due to the actions of her mother, despite those being actions that Kira herself found abhorrent. As a result, Kira is forced to accept that yet another of the choices she had considered black and white are just more shades of grey. This episode does do something else, though. It puts me in the curious position of needing to defend a time-fuckery episode. I've seen opinions online that the entire premise is utter nonsense, and that Kira's actions, or indeed her mere presence, undermine the timeline. How can Seagull Dukat have not recognized Kira when they met in the future? She was the chosen companion of his mistress in the past, and one involved in a bomb plot to boot. There are many such causality holes in this story, and not a single one of them matters. Why? Because everybody suggesting them is making the same assumption. They're assuming it was real. We know Bajoran orbs do plenty of weird shit, but the overwhelming majority of that shit has been in the form of visions. There's no reason to assume this is any different. And before you rush to the comments to say this didn't have the oversaturated orange filter that we usually see in an orb vision, I'd remind you that neither Sisko nor Dax had those in their visions during the pilot episode. And even if it was real, even if the prophets decided sticking her back there was necessary, we already know they can affect both time and memory. We saw that in the Season 4 episode Accession, when they said the guy who tried to replace Sisko as emissary wouldn't remember the event, and the story ended with Kira still having memories of a then-deleted past. All of which is to say, if you're going to try and find plot holes in time travel stories, it's probably wise to avoid the stories that involve beings who live outside of linear existence. We'll end today then with a banger of a line from Kira, and one I think provides a truth we'd all do well to remember. I don't need to know him. I know the things he's done. Bad people will regularly have those who rush to defend them, claims made of how good, how noble, how misunderstood they are, if only you could look past their actions and truly know them. The line Kira gives tells you everything you need to know about such situations. If a person's private character is not borne out by their public deeds, then a character is all it is. End of episode.
I'm sure these backgrounds keep getting worse.
Do you think he's doing it to dick with us?
Maybe, but there's probably a plot reason to go with it as well.
We have a plot?
We've had loads. They've just all been shite.
You'd think after this long, they'd be getting better.
Hold on, that's the answer.
That he's a hack? Yes, I'd figured that out.
No, not the dingbat who writes these. I mean the GeoCity. What is it you said? You'd think after this long they'd be getting better? Well, they should be, shouldn't they? The streets, I mean. If the outskirts are abandoned and we're heading inwards, we should be seeing things improve. Instead, it's just getting worse.
Ha! That's actually a pretty astute observation. I'm not sure I like the implications, though.
It is a bit worrying, isn't it? Still, we might as well finish the job now.
You mean carry on to the center? What if it's dangerous?
Then I guess we'll see how many respawns it takes us to get the bloody hell out of here. Oh.